What do I want? It's a question that everyone eventually has to ask themselves. The key motivator for every action taken. The cause behind every effect. So, what do I want? I want to go to a sporting event in every major venue. I want to grow within my relationships with my friends and my family. I want the freedom to create without the fear of failure. I want to dream without being hindered by reality. I want to chase new passions, new experiences, and new goals. I want OldMilk to branch out of the box and try new things. I'm accomplishing some of these goals right now, and I know what I need to do to achieve the rest of them. However, the one thing you should take away from this commercial is I want you to buy OldMilk merch. All right, this is episode 326. So much has gone on. It's crazy how first of all, just the overall climate of what's going on and how everything just seems to be it's just a weird time to be alive right now. And I feel like last week that was magnified by the unfortunate passing of Takeoff from the Migos. I think that he's been a staple. Like even growing up in high school, listening to Hannah Montana, listening to the song Hannah Montana, like listening to Versace, listening to Handsome and Wealthy, Fight Night. Like it was so clear that Takeoff was one of, I mean, he's one third of the best rap group that we've in our lifetimes that we've seen. So a loss like this in general, understanding how important he was not only for the Migos, but because of how influential the Migos were, ultimately how important he was for hip hop. It's really sad. One, the way that he went out. I believe he was 28 years old. And it's just sad in general seeing the amount of Black entertainers who aren't able to live to see 40.
Yeah, and I mean for rap, for hip hop specifically, it's just it's like it's devastating. For the art, for the genre, for the people involved, for families, for the Migos, for Quavo, for Offset. It's devastating, and it because of how visible Takeoff has been. It's like been over a decade
Yeah.
since like over a decade of an artist that we got, um and that comes complete with like childhood photos of him and Quavo, you know what I mean, that comes with watching and listening to someone like grow up via the music. And it's not, you can't, there's no comparison of any of these type of events, but it's when like someone as big as Takeoff, especially with the Migos splitting recently, and it feels like, because regardless of Takeoff status as the best rapper in the Migos, like I think it's fair to say he was number three in terms of just how things go. Like Quavo's a front man, Offset is the most well-rounded, and it's like it's kind of similar to, I don't know what it's similar to, but I think this, like he was the youngest. I think it just
He
a lot
was.
of stuff puts him where, you know what I mean? It's not like an actual ranking system, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of how it goes. And with the recent split, it's a whole different thing. And we got to see, obviously he released his solo project in 18, but like we got to see a different chemistry just a couple weeks ago. Like a couple weeks ago, me and you were on here talking about like, all right, like it was, good raps, and we liked Amigos album enough, but it's like it felt a little bit of the same stuff. And now knowing like that same stuff isn't gonna be there anymore is like, that's where it starts to feel not real. That's where it starts to feel like, all right, like this is way, way bigger than just like something that is in the news and gone in a couple of days. And it's like this is real life stuff. So it's devastating. It's sad. And like you said, in the midst of all the stuff that's been going on recently in music and sports and the world and politics and everything, it's just like another devastating loss.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely something that it's just so unfortunate how the Migos story ends, like the full group of the three end. And even taking away from that, stepping outside of music just to talk about how Quavo lost his nephew, Offset, I believe that they are cousins. Offset lost his cousin. Obviously, his mom, like his close immediate family, lost a brother, a son, et cetera, et cetera. It's just also just understanding how much effort Takeoff put in to keeping himself low key and keeping himself really out of, um, at least compared to Quavo and compared to Offset, like keeping himself out of like the public eye, if you will. It's just so unfortunate. Rest in peace, Takeoff, man. I'm going to be listening to The Last Rocket tonight because one, it's really good in the first place. Like it's one of the best albums of that year, the year that it came out. I want to say 2018. But two, just to pay homage to one of the best rappers that we've seen in our lifetimes. So rest in peace, Takeoff. But on some, I guess, slightly lighter news, the Houston Astros are the World Series champions. So over under how many months before they're outed for cheating? I
Don't
got four.
care.
I got four. I got 4 months.
Don't care.
Okay, you're just
Got
on to
like
next season.
they got like 3 World Series losses in here. Like I don't like whatever. People like coming from someone who roots for the Patriots my whole life. Like that middle period where they were losing and even like losing to the Eagles in 2018 or 17 or whatever it was, like people talking crazy, like you know what I mean? I don't want to hear it. The Astros were the gutter of the MLB. Like, yeah, if you want to be the worst team in the league for 10 whole years just to get like sure, that's fine. Like well earned. I really like Pena. Like you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
This team is way
ALCS
this team
World
is way
Series
easier to
MVP.
root for than like in 17 or 18 when the Red Sox played them, or you know what I mean? Like this team, like Jordan Alvarez, like how are you going to root against? You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's not like Verlander's still there, but it's not the same rotation. So I'm not happy about it. Like I don't, you know what I mean? It's like pretty much with football and basketball, I'll stay engaged the whole time. But once the Red Sox are out, that's where I'm like I end up
I
not checking
mean,
out. Like I'm watching the game still, but like in terms of actually like feeling something, I don't have anything.
I mean, if it's the Astros and the Phillies, I'm whoever loses, I'm leaving with something. So I'm just glad the Phillies aren't world champions. Like either way, I would have been glad that the loser didn't win. So
Yeah.
I'm leaving here with something. So that's all I got. But
Hey,
also, before we actually get into our podcast, shout out to Justin Fields, the best quarterback from the 2021 NFL draft. I think that's pretty much determined at this point.
watch
178
like
yards on the ground,
it's
three
crazy.
touchdowns.
You got 3 weeks of good quarterback play, and you're talking crazy.
They actually gave no, no, no.
This is what a franchise led by Rex Grossman does to people.
Oh no, that's for sure. That's for sure true. But
Rex Grossman, Kyle Orton, Jay Cutler, Andy Dalton. You know,
yeah,
this
Mitch
is this
Trubisky.
is.
Don't forget Mitch
Oh yeah,
Trubisky.
sorry,
Don't forget.
Mitchell. Yeah, this is what they did to you.
Yeah,
Where 3 weeks feels like the mountaintop. And hey, I'm happy. I'm
and
happy for you. No, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. We can leave it there. No. Like
I'm just saying he broke the rushing record for all quarterbacks, and I think he's like one of four players to ever throw 3 touchdowns and rush for 140 yards in a game. They should have won the game. They got robbed, by the way, but that's
that's
a different
great.
story.
Catch a playoff game. That's all I like. That's all
Oh,
I need.
soon next year.
Okay.
We
Hey,
have picks, and we have a lot of money, and we're gonna
the
sign a
Bears have
lot of
had
players.
Bears have had picks and money, and next year quite a
Nah,
few times.
not money. We ain't have like this much money. Like we traded
Hey,
away Roquan, we traded away someone else. I think we're gonna have like $100 million in cap room. It's gonna be amazing. But anyway, this has been the Cap Pod. This is the Podcast. This is episode 326. That is Taylor
this has
McLeod.
been it. This has just been it. It's over.
I am Nate Sperlin. Thank you for watching on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, and more. Do us a favor, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Old Milk Media. Check out the Old Milk Spence playlist on Spotify and YouTube, and check out all the Old Milk content on oldmilk.co. That being said, Taylor, how are you doing today?
It's a it's an interesting time for music, especially because like a Drake release used to last at least like a week. You know what I mean? You'd be on it for a week. Even honestly, never mind. People were on that for a week, and it feels like all discourse about her loss is already over. We're talking on Monday, so we've been had the album for 3 days now, and it's like it seems gone, which is fine. You know what I mean? Like I almost look forward to that time now because it's like, all right, do I like this or am I caught up in something? And it gives you more time to come out of it. And obviously, like it's projected to do big numbers and all that, but I don't know. I like obviously you asked me how I was, but all that's
Hmm.
been on my mind for the last 3 days is just this album and seeing how it works inside the context of
I mean, it's your duty as a Drake stan for this to completely
that's what
take
I'm
up your
saying.
mind space. Like you're just doing your job. Honestly,
Hey,
good job, man. Like, you had a task, you had a goal, and you just followed through on it. And I just couldn't be more proud of you, man. You're really
thank
doing the
you.
thing.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, also to add on to why it's a weird time for music, the ghosts of Mariah Carey are starting to hear him a little bit. So
It's true.
just be on the
But
lookout for that. But that being said,
Christmas music not gonna hit the same 70 degrees.
I gotta have some snow. I haven't seen any snow yet, and it's 70 degrees outside. I might hoop after this, but regardless, this is the episode where we're talking about Drake and 21 Savage. We're talking about Her Loss, 16 tracks, 1 hour long, featuring Travis Scott. There are some ad libs from Lil Yachty, and there's also some interludes from Young Nudie and Birdman on this. Um, Join the conversation in the comments below as we talk about this. So, that being said, Taylor, what were your first initial thoughts on Her Loss?
This is a really coming from a place of someone who's listening like all of Drake's music forever. Like that's been my most listened to artist of my life, and it's not really close. Going into this project, knowing the title, it's like kind of conflicting. It's like, all right, we're still on. This is the third project in a row now that's like scorn Drake, like hurt Drake, like rejected Drake. And when I first heard about the project with 21 Savage, I was hoping for paranoid Drake, like mob Drake, like scary Drake. And we get some of that, in here, but it's a really conflicting project because like the toxic Drake is not my favorite. Toxic Drake is not my favorite Drake. And that's what most of this is. I think that a lot of people agree that this is Drake's best rapping album in quite some time. Like honestly, Nevermind wasn't a rap album. Certified Lover Boy felt more like fan service than anything. Dark Lane demo tapes have some good raps on it, and then Scorpion is 25 tracks long, so you're gonna like find some stuff in there. But since if you're reading this is probably his best rap performance outside of some like loose singles and outside of some features. But it's just a really conflicting record because the first time, and I texted you this, the first time through, I texted you, I was like, no skips. And I don't know if there are any skips in this. Like, you can play this album from front to back, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed at any point. I think it's a Drake and 21 Savage album. Definitely heavier Drake project than 21 project, but it's conflicting because some of the choices made on this album just like feel unnecessary and feel corny and they feel forced when it just didn't need to happen like that. Like he's so good at bragging about stuff that like no offense to me and you, but like we're never gonna like it might not happen for us. You know what I mean? Like we might not go from the back room at the Vava over there and then back to the Vava. And like if you know, I don't know. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
like that stuff is what makes Drake to me. That kind of stuff. The brags about like the stuff that like whatever. But when it starts to get into like the super toxic, super like scorned, rejected, hurt, like Drake used to be like get made fun of crazy for like singing to the women. And now like all of his music is just like like fuck all these women, like I don't want to talk, like you know what I mean? It's like very, it's just very like adversarial towards women when like his music used to get like destroyed for being too like geared that way, and now it's very much like a there's like a strange like aggression and anger in a lot of it that it's just interesting, and it leaves you conflicted after a project like this.
Yeah. Um, I feel like on Knife Talk and Jimmy Cooks, we got a lot of Drake trying to step into 21 Savage's lane. And because of that, I was really excited for this project because I thought we just get more of, I thought that I would be able to count this project as like, oh, this is 21 Savage's project for the first time in 2 years. Cool. This is not a 21 Savage project. This is a Drake project with just 21 Savage features. Um, I just give me a second real quick. I just want to let me digress a little. So in 1984, Wendy's rolled out a commercial where they were talking about the ratio between hamburger patty to hamburger bun of their competitors. And the punchline of it was, where's the beef? And throughout this whole tape, I found myself asking, where's the 21 Savage? Like there are select verses here and there. I aside from two tracks, there are absolutely no hooks from 21 Savage at all. Um, Additionally, I think that 21 Savage has shown the ability to make tracks like this by himself. Like there are tracks like Ocean Drive, Mr. Right Now, Rip Love, et cetera, where he kind of addresses these things, Ball Without You, Out You. He kind of addresses these things from the hurt male perspective. And he just wasn't allowed to carry at all. He wasn't allowed to cook. He wasn't allowed to really show how talented of an artist he is. Now, we understand that 21 Savage, amongst hip hop fans, we understand that 21 Savage is at worst a top 10 rapper, at worst. But because Drake has so many other fans in different genres, it really would have been nice for Drake to kind of expose 21 Savage to those other fans who maybe don't listen to as much hip hop as everyone else does or as people do. So that was kind of disappointing. Um just overall, just Drake needs to come off the ball, man. Like we're watching the Lakers right now and we're watching what happens when Russell Westbrook has the ball and how that unit performs better with Russ on the ball versus LeBron on the ball, et cetera, et cetera. And I just feel like it's the correlation or the that's an analogy for what's happening here where yeah, Drake is one of the most versatile artists we've ever seen, the same way that LeBron is one of the most versatile players we've ever seen, one of the best players we've ever seen, one of the best rappers we've ever seen in Drake. However, if it's all about showcasing you in this scenario, cool, that works to an extent, but at the same time, I think that it would, in both situations, it would be better served if the more versatile people, the most versatile entertainers, took a step back and allowed themselves to be the glue for everything else that's going on rather than the main story. Um, but overall, aside from that, aside from the fact that this is not a 21 Savage album, and I still want a 21 Savage album, so you're still on the clock. This doesn't count. And even if you drop 5 verses on the Metro project that's coming up in next month, excuse me, still not going to be enough to fulfill my hunger for 21 Savage music. Despite all that, overall, if we put that to the side and we just understand that this is a Drake album with 21 Savage features, this is the best Drake album that he's released in years. All the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. One of the main issues that I had with Certified Lover Boy was the fact that it just looked like it was rushed and half baked. I feel like with this one, Drake really took his time with it, or he took more time than we're accustomed to seeing him take, which is ironic because the turnaround for this album, he dropped Honestly Nevermind in June, right? So
Yeah,
so the
June or
turner
July, one of the two.
yeah, so the turnaround from Honestly Nevermind to this is way shorter than the turnaround from Certified Lover Boy to Dark Lane demo tapes, or even Scorpion, because Dark Lane demo tapes really came out as to be filler. At least that's my perspective from it. So one, I like how Drake finally picked a cover art that looks how the music sounds. I feel like he was struggling with that a little bit. That's an underrated part of artistry, at least for people who still care about that type of stuff. I'm definitely one of those people. And I can't really. when was the last time that we saw an album where Drake clearly cared about rapping and executed it? Like Certified Lover Boy, you could point to and be like, that's in like Champagne Poetry and all the other ones. Like that's an album that Drake wanted to rap and show that he could rap. He didn't really execute it as well as I thought that he should have. But this one, I think that he executes it well. And it really brings me back to early 2010s Drake. While the content may not be the same, like early 2010s Drake was more so like, I love you. Why won't you give me a chance? And now it's just like, all right, well, fuck you. I don't, whatever it is. Um, Although that content is different, the characteristics of the music is still the same where it comes to the rapping and the way that he mixes in the singing with the rapping. I love that as well. I just think my one question about this album is how much playback value it has. And I think that that will be reflected, one, by the point that you made, Taylor, saying that it's been the weekend. We've had this for 3 days, and it seems like the discourse over this album has already died down into the second week numbers because the first week numbers are going to be huge or whatever. But depending on how big the drop is, I think that will be very telling to how much playback value her loss has.
Yeah, and there's so much to talk about with a project like this, and especially coming from a rapper like Drake, where there's so much outside of the music happening too in terms of like the business of everything, and you can put him on a similar level to like the Adele's, the Taylor Swifts, where it's like, all right, this is a case study in how streams work, how you know what I mean, like how the modern music industry works, because obviously he's projected to do big, they're projected to do big first week numbers, but like you said, we'll see how the second week goes. We'll see how things carry out from here. And in terms of his focus on rapping on this project, I think it's the best since if you're reading this, it's too late. I think that he had something to prove coming off Honestly Nevermind. Not the reception of Honestly Nevermind affected any of this album, because I don't think it did. I think this was very clearly from the presence of Jimmy Cooks, this was already in the works. Like this was happening, and it does feel very much like a Drake album featuring 21 Savage. I think there's a lot of moments where 21 does shine on this, but it's just drowned out. Like I think his hook on "Spin About You," I'm pretty sure sounds, and I wouldn't be surprised if Drake wrote this, but it sounds like an early Drake hook, where it's
Mm.
like very singing, like especially the line where he's like, whatever. He's like, "Cause you know that Savage love you." I'm like, all right, that's like that's Jimmy on the pen. Like I can hear young Drake like writing that. Um, I think there's a ton of moments on this song or on this project where Drake really shines, and I think that this is a super solid Drake album. And for me, as like the fan that I am, like I'll be playing this. Like this, there's like songs that stick forever, from a lot of artists, but specifically Drake. Like I'm still playing like stuff off like So Far Gone and Thank Me Later all the time. Like it's like um that's in my like steady rotation still, but there's definitely moments on this project, and I think we'd be remiss to not talk about the biggest moment on this project, the moment that blew up the most on Circo Loco, where he says like, she lied about getting shots, but she's still a stallion. And whether that, like, Lil Yachty came out, and it seems like Lil Yachty kind of like creative directed this project a little bit, which I don't hate for Drake's career, because I think Lil Yachty's really tuned in with the music side of things, but also like the fashion, the art, all of it. And Lil Yachty said that line isn't about Meg. It's about cosmetic surgery. And when you hear it and putting it in the context of the entire album, that makes sense. If it was intentional, it's crazy disappointing. It's
Mm.
unnecessary. And if it wasn't, it's still unnecessary for Drake to try to walk that tightrope. Cause like I get it, like, yeah, the wordplay's there or whatever, but like Drake is way, way, way too smart to know or to think that he was just gonna be able to skate on that. And things do get convoluted when there's just a random screenshot of a genius lyric going around and that's all people know. Because that's like for so many people, that's their only, they won't hear a single second of this album. They will not hear a beat. They won't hear a bar. They won't hear anything. All they know is that screenshot from Genius, which is the wrong lyric, first of all. Like, it's the wrong lyric. And people think that Genius is like this, like AI, like whatever, like getting every
No,
word
it's
exactly
people.
correctly. It's
It's
people
human. It's
just like
very
me.
much human error.
It's it's
Yeah.
people just like you and me. And when an album comes out, right when it comes out, if you go on and look at the Genius lyric, you can see the people it'll either say scribing, like which means someone's writing it down, or you can see where they like have no idea what they're talking about. Like when I first brought this up, I think Broke Boys, I brought it up for Broke Boys when it was when I my first playthrough, and it was like I'm in love with Houston, Dallas office instead of Austin. And I was like, for real? Like Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas, office. All right, cool. Like, of course, like you know what I mean. So there is that part of it, but I think there are so many moments on this album, and where it's just like, and I hate to do this because like it feels such a low hanging fruit, but to be like, yo, you're 36, but it's like sometimes like it's the truth, and you can look at it and say that Future's making this kind of music at an older age. You can look at it and say that like Kanye made Yeezus at 36, and then he turned around and made Pablo at 39, and both of them have like wild toxic. But it's like there is part of me that's like, all right, this is unnecessary. You hear middle of the ocean, and even like that bar at Serena or Serena's husband, I guess that's more like thought out. That's more like he like calculated, and that's more like within the rap realm of things. And it's not so much like this like super petty, super toxic, super like it feels like it's targeted to an audience that's like I'm just not a part of. Like I
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean? And like it's targeted to a much in like me and you, we're only 24, but like it feels like those bars, certain things are targeted to an audience younger than us,
Yeah.
who's
I
still in
mean,
this like, you know what I mean? Like that, like, and granted, there's people our age and there's people much older than us who are still in the shit. But like there's just parts of it where I'm like like that's just not my favorite. There's parts of it where, all right, like shopping Drizzy, like we got it back, like you know what I mean? Like our like this is why I'm here. But there are other moments where I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Obs.
I mean, I'm 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 glad that you brought that up. I think that to address I'm very interested to see how or to hear about how much input Lil Yachty had on this project. Because when you brought that up and you floated the theory that Lil Yachty was more of a correct creative director here. The album cover kind of does seem like something Lil Yachty would pick, if I'm
Yeah,
being
well,
honest with
just
you.
like the whole rollout and like
Yeah,
the how they're moving, and it's like very much. And Yachty, like for everyone who rails against Yachty's like rapping ability, I think he has always understood exactly where he's always had his thumb on the intersection of everything that makes up hip hop. And I think he's incredible at that. Like whether it was like the Nautica stuff when he was first coming up, and now like it's like a much different fashion wave, but he's right there with it. And I think he's helping Drake because Drake for a long time was like the fists just weren't necessarily there, and now they are. And I'm not saying that Yachty's like styling Drake because like I don't think that's what's happening, but I think that having like someone a little younger than you to like who's been around long enough though who understands like how things are operating now, it's understanding both sides is really important. And like like a song like Back Outside Boys, like that sounds like a little like
a lot of
you
the
can
beats
hear
too. He has a beat from Filthy. He also has a beat. I think it might be the same beat from Uji Mane, who produced a lot on Lil Uzi's Eternal Take. So there's a lot of different younger demographic producers, at least from what I've seen so far, that had something to do with this project. I think another reason why I like the project is because of that beat selection, because of that production, because it reminds me of something that Lil Yachty would make, or something that Lil Uzi would make, or people from that generation would make. Um, Additionally, talking about the line on Circo Loco, the immediate line after he says what he says is, "She don't even get the joke, but she's smiling." So it's like you knew Drake.
yeah.
I fully believe Lil Yachty when he says that um it wasn't intended as a diss towards Meg Thee Stallion. But at the same time, I still fully believe that Drake wrote that line just for a response. And I think that he understood that response, or he predicted the response that he was going to get from it. As we keep talking about songs, Spin About You is the best song here, period. Um, 21 Savage, the 21 Savage verse is amazing. And the thing that really sparked my thought that this kind of felt like early 2010s Drake was the way that Drake kind of comes in after 21 Savage's verse and sings. He had me singing "The Way You Make Me Feel These Days" for like days. I'm probably still singing it. It's stuck in my head, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. And I also the sample under that percussion just it just pulls everything together so beautifully. Um, Additionally, on BS, I love how 21 Savage is like, I jump on your song and make you sound like you the feature, and then Drake is like, I jump on your song and make the label think that they need you. That's
Yeah.
true in both scenarios. That's very
Oh,
true.
yeah.
We can go through a list of artists who Drake got on their song and they were the next big thing for 2 months and then they just disappeared. And
I
additionally,
know.
21 Savage has been on some of these songs. 21 Savage makes Drake seem like the feature, to be honest with you. So there's nothing
901
but
Shelby
truth
Drive.
there.
Look
there's
alive. Look alive.
there's nothing but truth there. Hours in Silence, I wanted more of 21 Savage being melodic on there, but for what we got, I enjoyed it. Aside from the line on Circle Loco, that's probably one of my favorite songs. The beat is just crazy on there. And also, the one song I'll say for sure that Drake carries is Pussy in Millions because the flow on the hook is great. And then the way that he ends his verse and passes it off to 21 Savage when he's like, I'm repping 4L with my 20, so treacherous. Let me introduce y'all to the leader. And then 21 Savage just takes over from there
Yeah.
is just amazing. Additionally, the best run is really from like the album really starts from Circle Loco and just keeps going until it finishes. At least that's from my perspective, at least. And I guess to close it out a little bit because this is kind of adjacent to what we're talking about. 21 Savage said that he could be the rest of the 2016 Double XL freshman list in a verses. Is that true?
I mean, it's only one person who could do it with him. Like
It's
him and
two.
Uzi are the only two from that.
Nah, Kodak could do it too. Kodak could do it
But
too.
I don't know if Kodak has the hits like either of them.
No. You gotta
No,
Kodak.
but
He
think
has
about the
the hits.
songs. Think about the songs that go like in those like, and I always come back to the New York ones like with Jada Kiss or with the Locks and Dipset.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Ja Rule and Fat Joe. Like it's the songs that everyone knows that push the stuff over the edge. And 21 and Lil Uzi both have just like an advantage in that department where
Kodak does
they
too.
no, but not in the same
Kodak
way.
does too.
Not in the
I
same way. I think
I
that in terms of uh
I
like
think he's
running a
I
I
think that
think in
21
terms of
Savage I think that 21 Savage is the second best rapper from that class. I think that Lil Uzi will beat him. I think that Kodak stands a chance and everyone else loses. That's how I feel.
yeah. I think in terms of like controlling a crowd and wooing a crowd, I think Anderson .Paak would be unbelievable to watch him just like it'd be like a ludicrous situation where he just understands how to do it, but he doesn't like have the songs to like compete in that arena, especially because he's way more he's just in a
He's
different lane.
more
He's in a
pop.
different
Yeah.
yeah, but like in terms of like understanding how to move people, like that would be very fun. And I think that he would like, I know it's a competition, but I think he would be able to have like a ton of fun with those rappers too, to be like, all right, like, because like by the end they weren't as competitive in the beginning. Like when you had Gucci and Jeezy, it was like, oh, all right, I don't know if this should be on Instagram Live, but then by the end you had people like performing together, so like you could get something fun out of that. But getting back to this in terms of actual songs, and I think like, and I could go, give you something from every single one. Rich Flex, I think when I first heard it, I was like, all right, Drake, this is corny, but now I can't get it out of my head. Like the do you think 21, do you think like you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in the beginning, I was like, all right, like okay,
I skipped that the first time I heard it, but then after two
yeah,
listens, I it's one of the songs that's in my playlist now. And I don't
yeah.
think I can start the album without it, to be honest with
No, I love Back Outside Boys.
you. Mm-hmm.
Privilege Rappers is really good. That's like kind of like my favorite Drake, where he's talking about other rappers and not so much about like whatever his life as a degenerate at this point, which I think he would admit. Like you know what I mean? He would like tell you that he had lines 10 years ago about being a degenerate, like Ellen DeGeneres and stuff like that. Like I think Spin About You is great. Hours in Silence has like a jaded Diamonds Dancing vibe at the end, but like at this point, I don't need 4 minutes of Drake like in his feelings like that
It's too
anymore.
long. It is too
Like
long.
Diamonds Dancing was when he did that on that album, and we got a couple minutes left, but when he did that on that album, like that was something. Treacherous Twins might be my favorite song on this project. I know that like some people don't like it. But like I think that's like a I love that. I think that's a song where 21 should not have been on it. I think that should have been just a Drake song because like it doesn't it's just like a different lane. Broke Boys is to me the best example of 21 and Drake working together. Like of really like working with each other and like because you have like 21 starts
Is
this
that
verse
the
and
one
then
where they alternate with lines in a verse?
yeah, because 21
Yeah.
starts
Okay.
out and then
Yeah.
Drake's
Yeah.
doing the
Yeah.
backing vocals where he's like talking about Adidas and he's like, I got the stripes, but fuck Adidas. Middle of the Ocean is the one, like for that's the one for the Drake stance. That's the one for me. That's the one for people who went into this being like, all right, I love 21 Savage, but if he didn't have a single verse in this album, I still would play it. You know what I mean? Like that was the one for the stands. That's the 6 minute Drake sitting back with the, a drink in his hand, just telling you where he's been, how life is going. And then, I mean, from there, like I honestly kind of stopped the project after Middle of the Ocean. I wish the 3 a.m. on Glenwood by 21 was higher. I
Yeah.
don't, I don't love the giving away the timestamp record like that. Again, this is like a Drake stand thing. This is like where I'm like, man, like especially after 7 a.m. on Bridal Path wasn't exactly like didn't live up to 4 p.m. in Calabasas or 5 a.m. in Toronto or you know what I mean, even 6 p.m. in New York. So it's like, I don't know. But I mean, this is where you start to get in the weeds. My last point though is while I really appreciate 21 on this, and I think that Drake and 21 have a very interesting, very special chemistry for a record called Her Loss, that this is the subject matter. I would have much rather had Future.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think that 21 Savage, if he was given the space to execute
I
more,
agree.
to have more, if he was given more space to work, essentially, um, I think that he would have killed it, but he just wasn't, and
No, this
it's
is like,
fine.
and this is
It
like, if I would like to hear a 21 project featuring Drake in this similar format where it's way more 21, and then it's like,
yeah,
all right, like
that's what
Drake,
this should have been. That's
you go into
exactly what
that
this should have
world.
been. But
Like the
um,
two rappers who create the world together in this specifically very toxic world, like we know
yeah,
the two who belong
yeah,
together to do this type of music. Like I tweeted it like 4 years ago. There's like a picture of Future. He features like on his phone and Drake's like looking over his shoulder, smiling so big, like when he's with Boogie Cousins, when he was looking up at Boogie. And I was like, I tweeted out, I was like, this could be like this could be us, but you playing. Like it should always be those two. That was my number one takeaway. I love 21 Savage. I think his parts on this album are super important. But when I'm listening to it and like the subject matter, especially, I'm just like, and again, this is certainly my biases coming through. FBG OVO 100%.
oh my god. What are your favorite tracks?
Uh, I'll just do like three of them. Back Outside Boys
Uh,
is definitely one of them. Treacherous Twins, Middle of the Ocean.
all right. Mine are On BS, Spin About You, Circle Loco, Pussy and Millions featuring Travis Scott, Jumbotron Shit Poppin', More M's, and 3M in Glenwood. So this has been the Cat Podcast, episode 326. Let us know your thoughts on Her Loss in the comments below. Do us a favor, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Check out Old Milk on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Old Milk Media. Check out the Old Milk Since Place on Spotify and YouTube. And check out all the Old Milk content on oldmilk.co. That being said, we are out. We're going to
Can I
be
ask you one
back.
more question?
Yes, you can ask me one more question.
So if you needed to get to one place to another
Okay.
quickly,
Okay.
luxuriously,
Yes.
who would you call to send the jet?
Anyway. Anyway.
Robert Kraft sent the jet
We
for us. That shit was patriotic.
we will be back next week because Rod Wave is coming out and I am super excited for that. So we will see you then.